And Diamond's going to be doing the drawing. It's a nice surprise.
The last time a European player drew for European teams, it didn't end well.
With Froggen?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Froggen didn't do them any favors, and this is going to be, looks like KT.
And it is KT Rolster, so they will fit into the very first slot. KT, of course, the #1 seed from Group D, which means Origin will know they will be on the bottom half of the bracket.
So really nothing fully revealed yet. We're going to learn a lot when they draw the next ball, though.
I'm sure they're a little relieved about that, but it still opens up the chance for them to hit Fnatic right now. Which could guarantee a European team into the semis.
Diamond.
Not really sure how I feel about that, Monty.
Well, there's Fnatic.
Première place.
So much for the Fnatic Origin matchup.
So much indeed.
So, both European teams on either side of the bracket.
Yeah, Fnatic KT Rolster is going to be incredibly entertaining. Fnatic really came on strong at the end of the group stage, but so did KT Rolster.
Yeah, sets up a possible very good semifinal. Also means that we will not have KT and SKT on the same side of the bracket.
All right, so Flash Wolves, the #1 seed from Group A, means that KOO Tigers will be in the top half. So we could see Korea on Korea or KOO versus Fnatic. So we'll get to those in just a second. And
It's
not very exciting anymore,
Yeah.
just KT.
Flash Wolves came
Spoiler.
from Group A.
Ok, maintenant on prend pour.
well, we do need to do it for, just to confirm, of course, that all 4 teams were in the pool. I'm impressed with.
Well, we can never miss a chance to see Diamond grabbing balls, so. There you go, SK Telecom, T1.
So, unfortunately for Flash Wolves, who are 4/5 the Gamania Bears, who lost to SK Telecom in the quarterfinals of the 2013 World Championship, they get to face them again.
Right, now this is where things get interesting. As a reminder, the #2 seeds will be drawn. The only rule, if you draw into a position where a team from your group is already in that half of the bracket, you get bumped.
Alors, nous allons passer au tirage des
So those were-
deuxièmes de poule. Comment ça marche? 2 équipes ayant été
like we'll be
dans la
drawing.
même poule ne peuvent pas
It should
se
be the
rencontrer.
first opponent, KT Rolster.
Bon,
Alright.
les équipes du
On the
même
Right.
assumption,
Sorry about that. I was operating under a strange assumption. Those are all the #1 seeds.
Correct.
So those are not
#1
the
seed.
matchups whatsoever.
correct, #1
C'est
seeds.
ça.
They have now populated the left-hand side of the matchup.
Diamond.
And obviously preferential side choice. And the first #2 seed. Let's find out who this is going to be.
That's going to be the KOO Tigers.
Yeah. They are color-coded.
Which means
Yellow is Korea.
that should be a KT Rolster versus
Yep.
KOO Tigers matchup.
Oui.
So we'll see a Korean matchup.
Contre les
And this is going to be a
KT
rematch of what we saw actually in the playoffs, which is a 5-game series between KOO and KT Rolster.
That is extremely interesting to see Korea pulling Korea, but with SKT on the bottom half of the bracket and a guaranteed Korean team in the semifinals up top, this could set us up for an early Korea v Korea final. But we are getting well ahead of ourselves as the next Origin, next matchups have to get drawn. It is Origin from D2. Now, of course, they will not be able to be in the top half of the bracket, so they get bounced to the Flash Wolves.
Wow, what a great draw for Origin here. Absolutely fantastic. They should be a heavy favorite going into that
Eh
match.
oui, la règle décide, la règle décide.
And of course, the reason for that, KT Rolster was in the top half of the bracket, the first seed from that group, which is why Origin then bounced.
Européenne.
So the last 2 teams available for selection here are AHQ and
Il
EDG,
nous reste que 2.
both of which can face, no, I'm lying to you, Fnatic
Fnatic has to face EDG.
has to face EDG. What a tough challenge. Let's see who we're drawing here.
It will be the EDG
It will be
draw.
EDG. That's difficult, chat.
That is really tough. Now that I'm correctly understanding the way the brackets are being fallen, it'll be exciting to watch Fnatic versus EDG right here because EDG has underperformed. Remember, the only LPL team to make it out of the group stage when I was heavily rating the Chinese teams to all advance out of the group stage. So they've heavily underperformed to this point, and now it'll be a fascinating matchup between Fnatic and them.
does mean, of course, our last matchup will be AHQ versus SK Telecom.
C'est officiel. AHQ.
What a difficult.
Contre SK
I mean,
Telecom.
for AHQ, looking at the draw, even if they'd won the group, theoretically speaking, they would have faced EDG if the draws had held true. They have just won the only tiebreaker match, and now Westor takes to the stage, standing next to his opponent, Clear Love and EDG. Well,
yeah, that is a terrifying matchup for AHQ. They came out very strong today with an incredibly close game against Fnatic. They're going to be kicking themselves if they didn't win that game.
You know, honestly, the top half of the bracket is significantly harder than the bottom half right now. SK Telecom, I feel, would have to make a lot of errors not to make the finals with this bottom bracket.
I think that's a good thing, though. If you take a lot of the stronger teams in one half of the bracket, in theory, it sets us up for the legitimate strongest second seed team to actually face what we assume could be SKT. So it ends up being quite exciting when you think about some of the possibilities. You can see it on your screen. KT Rolster versus Ku Tigers, Korea v Korea. Fnatic taking on Edward Gaming, Europe versus China. Flash Wolves versus Origin. LMS versus EU. And then, of course, SK Telecom, the tournament favorites, taking on AHQ Korea versus LMS in London next week.
I'm just hoping that we get a great finals this year. We've yet to really have a great World Championship finals, and this is a bracket that can deliver that.
French crowd are definitely calling their quarterfinal champions in here. Absolutely nobody's left for the draw, which is fantastic. And the crowd has just been so loud all weekend long.
You had to see the bracket draw. You had to see who was going to get SKT. You had to see how the European teams are going to be placing, especially for the Parisian crowd here. And I honestly think if you're looking at the European teams, they got a pretty good draw overall. EDG was actually looking pretty weak in their group. They lost substantially to SKT, and I think they're vulnerable. And Flash Wolves would have been probably the weakest #1 seed out of all the groups.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming in here, and you know, KT Rolster versus Ku, this is a matchup we saw like about a month ago in the playoffs, so something we're actually going to be seeing again here, which is very exciting.